Hello there. I'm Colleen.
I'm Anders.
And I'm Daniel.
We're three nerds that met through our love of science fiction and fantasy storytelling. Of course, one of our favorites is George Lucas's signature achievement, Star Wars.
And if there's one thing the internet definitely doesn't have enough of, it's nerds talking about Star Wars. So here we are with yet another Star Wars podcast, where each week we discuss one of the films in the current Star Wars canon.
From the sands of Tatooine to the levels of Coruscant, we cover it all. Yet another Star Wars podcast is available wherever you get your podcast and is part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Dave.
And join us every Thursday for a new episode of Two Player Bros, a podcast about two guys who play way too many video games. Join me and Dave as we talk about the latest in Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and VR news, previews, and reviews. We have it all, and we play it all.
And join us every other week for Post Game, where we play through and dive deep into our favorite modern classics and new releases.
That's Two Player Bros, available every Thursday wherever you get your podcast, part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
You and I have unfinished business.
Baby, you ain't kidding.
Hey, I'm John.
And I'm Lloyd.
And welcome back to another week of On the QT presented by Forgotten Entertainment. We are here to talk about, well, okay, let's get into this right off the bat. We're here to talk about what I would consider the fifth film of the Quentin Tarantino filmography. Now, listen, on the last episode, I went through a whole rant saying that even though some people are saying Kill Bill's one movie, it was supposed to be, but then it was broken into, released in two different, showings a year apart from each other. Then I said on the last episode that at the beginning of Kill Bill Volume 1, it says the fourth film by Quentin Tarantino, which means this has got to be the fifth film. Well, here's where everything goes wrong, because if you watch Kill Bill Volume 2, at no point does it reference itself as the fifth film of Quentin Tarantino. It does not do that. That puts a strike against me. And then today, I was going to watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for the first time. Spoiler alert. I have never seen this before. I was going to watch it for the first time. And right there on the DVD Blu-ray case, on the, on the poster section of it, it says the ninth film from Quentin Tarantino. So this whole show on the QT and our premise might just be bullshit, but hey, we're doing 10 episodes no matter what. So this week, Lloyd and I have another great guest, and he is actually part of the family, founding fathers of Forgotten Entertainment. He's been on our show, Pint of Comics, 1.6 million times, and we've been on his show several times. We love him. It's Andrew Morgan from the awesome Nomcast. Andrew, what's going on, man?
I am great. Thank you guys for having me. John, I feel your pain. Even in the research for this movie, they're like, the marketing people of this movie didn't know what to do, because it says on the Kill Bill Volume 1 posters, it says fourth film. In the Kill Bill Volume 2 posters, it doesn't say anything. And they originally printed that it was the fifth movie, and then they took it away. Everybody is messed up about this. So don't feel bad. Even down to the people who are working for Quentin Tarantino at the time didn't know what the hell to do with it.
Yeah, I think this whole thing is very confused in terms of how many films he's actually done. But for the sake of the podcast,
it's the fifth film.
Two separate guests. Of course, Sean McLaughlin from HorrorNewsNetwork.net was on Kill Bill Volume 1. Andrew's here for 2. So we're just calling it fifth film. All right. I'm going to take my copy of Once Upon a Time and just erase that 9 and write 10 over it, because I want to be right for once in my life. Andrew, before we get into everything, real quick, would you like to tell everybody out there about Nomcast and what you do?
Sure. I'm the host of the Nomcast, the Netflix original movie podcast. Every Wednesday, we have new episodes where we either are previewing, reviewing, or some kind of version of Netflix news every single week. Netflix movie news. We just did some true crime stuff recently. We had an interview with Bone star Michaela Conlon, who was in the prank movie Bad Trip with Eric Andre. We'll do interviews. We'll do all kinds of stuff. And we just try to, it's all Netflix original movie centric. And we try to keep it interesting every single week with guests from, any industry, comedians, podcasters, film professionals, whoever.
Is all this going to your head, Andrew?
Oh God, no! You'd have to see my download numbers for that. It keeps me grounded for sure. No, it's good. We're just trying to grow all the time, man, and just have fun with it. It's good that we get recognized every now and then from Netflix or something, and get a cool guest that makes us seem like we're maybe more legit than we are.
Yeah, well, I tell you, I'm color me impressed. So I
appreciate that, Lloyd. Thanks, man.
Yeah, we love the show. And if you haven't heard yet, we actually did you a favor. We came up with a slogan. I don't know if you want to use this or not, but it's it's the Nomcast. Go fuck yourself, Hulu.
Well, especially after today, man. Disney made a deal with Sony like a few days after Netflix did a deal with Sony. So it's like, fuck you, Disney. Anyway, so go ahead.
All right. So normally on these episodes, we talk a lot about production details. We talk a lot about the cast and stuff like that. We did that in the last episode. Even if these are separate movies, these were made at the same time. So we're not going to get into all the filming in terms of like the dates and all that. Just go back and listen to that last episode. Lloyd is going to give you a cast list, but we're going to do it a little bit differently than normal because so many people returned. We're going to focus on the people that are new in this film, or in two cases, people that came back and played different roles in this film. Mm-hmm. So Lloyd, why don't you take it away with our Kill Bill Volume 2 cast list?
Well, let's get right to Gordon Liu as Pai Mei. Now, he did return. He was in Kill Bill Volume 1 as Johnny Mo. He is now Pai Mei, immensely powerful martial artist, master. And this is a character who's actually been featured in Hong Kong Kung Fu movies, Also, I think it was Bak Mei in those movies. He's the trainer of the Vipers, Bill, Elle, and Beatrix. And he's the one who took out Elle's eye.
Yes.
We learned that in the movie. That's pretty cool. And he did teach Beatrix the fatal movement known as the 5-point palm exploding heart technique. Try and say that 5 times fast.
No. I honestly, had not seen this movie in a long time, years ago. And when that shitty metal band Five Finger Death Punch came out, I hadn't seen Kill Bill Volume 2 in so long that I thought that they were referencing the 5-point palm exploding heart technique. I get them mixed up all the time. One of them is a very cool maneuver from a movie I enjoy, and one of them is a shitty band, probably from Florida. So,
hey, I know some people who love that band.
All right.
Do you guys know the casting deal with this character?
No. What is it?
Go ahead.
So originally, Tarantino was going to play that role himself.
Yeah.
And he decided last minute not to do that, probably because it would have been super racist.
Yeah.
But his next move was that he was going to replace the role and then have it be dubbed over with his voice being like a bad doubled kung fu movie. And then he ditched the whole thing. And then obviously we see it as we see it.
He chose correctly.
Yes, he did. He did. Disaster avoided.
He avoided the anti-Asian sentiments of the Phantom Menace in a lot of ways by letting Gordon Liu play that role.
I was surprised it didn't originally go to Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. She's always up for playing an Asian person.
Yes,
Asian character.
Yes.
All right, Master. Who else we got?
We have Michael Parks as Esteban Viejo, a retired pimp and basically Bill's father figure. Now, you will remember him also from Kill Bill Volume 1 as the Texas Ranger Earl McGraw. Now, this character was actually supposed to be played by, John?
Ricardo Montalban.
Yes. Yeah, but he did not show up to the, I think, first read-through.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Parks did, and he read it, and Tarantino was so impressed, rightfully so, that he cast him in that role. And John, like you, we talked earlier, you you weren't really aware that Gordon Liu was Pai Mei. And
No.
I didn't know that Michael Parks was Esteban.
Oh, okay.
Watching this character, I'm like, wow, that character is really good. It wasn't until later that I realized it was Michael Parks.
I always knew that was Michael Parks until this viewing and doing research. I never realized that Pai Mei was the same guy as Johnny Mo. Never. Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. Never knew it.
Then we have Bo Svensson as Reverend Harmony, who was presiding at the, it wasn't a wedding yet, as we learned. It was a wedding dress rehearsal of Beatrix and Tommy. Now, this guy, he played Buford Pusser in the 2 Walking Tall sequels. And he also had a cameo in Inglourious Bastards, which will be coming up. And he did appear in the original The Inglourious Bastards.
Bo Svensson.
Which is why he pulled him in. Yeah, Bo Svensson. Then you have Chris Nelson as Tommy Plimpton. Now, he was the fiance, Beatrix's fiance, who was killed in the wedding massacre. This guy's a makeup artist, visual effects artist, writer, and actor. He's done a lot of movies. Halloween 2018, not a great movie, but, you know, pretty good makeup. Kill Bill Volume 1, Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, Sin City, Thor, Dark World. A lot of stuff.
Definitely not an actor, though. Definitely.
And they actually named that character, the Plimptons were named after the animator, George Plimpton.
George Plimpton.
What's his name? Yeah. So, yeah, that whole section, which is funny because if I'm not mistaken, David Carradine's niece is Martha Plimpton, the actress Martha Plimpton.
Oh, I didn't know that she was related to him.
Yeah,
oh, that's cool.
I think I read that in my research of Carradine. So, yeah, it's interesting. Plimpton's aplenty over here.
Plenty of Plimptons here.
Yeah. I would say a plethora of
That's even better.
Yes.
Then we briefly have Samuel L. Jackson as Rufus, the organist at the wedding. Not much going on there, but it's good to see him.
Nice little cameo.
Do you guys buy into the rumors that people hope that it's Jules who went adrift after Pulp Fiction?
No, I don't buy into that.
I read that and I thought, you know, there's some things I like when people will say this is possible. And then there's somewhere I'm like, no, you know, I just like to think Rufus is this old guy that's been in Texas. And like he says, I was a coaster. I was like he's whenever these bands roll in the town, he backs them up. And I like that story. But yeah, one of the problems with some of the fan fiction or the fan theories is, you know, we got to jam everything into everything. But and I did read that and I thought, I get it. I see what you're trying to do there, you know, and because, you know, Jules does like go to drift and walk the world. But yeah, no, I'm not buying that.
Not unlike Kung Fu.
Yes. All right. So let's get into before we get into the actual film itself. Andrew, we kind of been talking about this with all of our guests. Big Tarantino fan. You don't care. Where are you at?
Oh no, I'm a big Tarantino fan. Some of his movies are harder to rewatch than others, maybe, but ultimately, the guy doesn't make really a bad film, and he's very careful. He's a super nerd, video store nerd. You know, he's so much like me and my friends growing up. He's just this hyper version of that and has channeled his nerddom into something positive. You know, he's so referential. He's one of the best writers. I have a bunch of his screenplays for just reading and researching at home. So absolutely a big fan.
All right. So I'm going to throw this out to all three of us at the beginning of this episode. We're going to rate it at the end, but I'm going to throw it right out there at the beginning. Because we've already said a lot, and a lot has been said about whether or not these are two movies, whether or not this is two halves to one movie, which it could be both, you know. Put it in this context, Andrew, whether or not they're two movies or whether or not it's two halves of a movie, do you prefer the first half or the second half?
The first, without a doubt.
All right. Manster, first or second half?
First half, no question.
I am absolutely positively on the same side as both of you, the first half. That's why I like the idea that these are two movies, because even though it is one big story, it almost feels like he purposely, you know, it's kind of hard to think about the fact that these are made at the same time, because it almost feels like maybe it's through editing that these are two different movies. You know what I mean? Like the pacing is different for both of them incredibly.
They're not even the same genre, John.
Right. Well, the first movie is essentially a revenge martial arts movie, and this is like a revenge Western.
Yes.
Amongst other things. So even though we're going to grade them later, I wanted to get that right out of the way. I wanted to see if any one of us thought Kill Bill Volume 2 was better than 1, because I generally, in my conversations with people, don't find anybody that likes 2 better than 1.
But you know what's funny, John?
Yeah.
Is that I looked at the critical scores, and Kill Bill Volume 2 almost just like it nudges out Volume 1 across the board.
Really?
And I don't get it because I'm like you. I think any fans that I've talked to, just amongst friends, everybody prefers Volume 1.
Interesting.
Universally, same here.
All right. I didn't realize that the critical consensus was so much that way. So
it's slight, but it's there.
It's there. It's enough to you'll see a tick on the number. So that's all that matters. All right. So at the end of Volume 1, we find out that Beatrix, as her name is not bleeped out as much in this one.
A couple times,
but not, we know her name. She has killed off Oren Ishii and Vernita Green. She's back in America. She is going to go after Bud. She's going to go after El Driver, and she's going to go after Bill, obviously Kill Bill. She's come back. She is ready to take on this mission. And right off the bat, we get what I think is my favorite bit in this whole movie, personally. The entire bit with Bud. What I love about the Bud bit, and I don't know whether you guys feel this way or not, Bud is played by Michael Madsen, is that he was a member of the divas that attacked and killed, the wedding party. And it's Michael Madsen, so he's this tough guy. But in this movie, he's playing like a old broken down
like a schlub.
He's a schlub. He's living in a trailer in the middle of like this like weird little mountain range in the middle of the desert. He talks to Bill about Bill comes to warn him, and he essentially says, she deserves whatever she gets. We fucked her over. We deserve to die, and you know what? She's going to get hers. They show him go to work where he's humiliated by his boss. He's humiliated by the strippers that work there, which, being humiliated by a stripper isn't always a bad thing. Some guys pay for that, but he's not paying for it. So you see the shell of a guy, right? You see the shell of what at one point they reference the fact that he had a Hattori Hanzo sword. They reference the fact, have you kept up on your sword work? They reference all this stuff that makes you think, man, I would love to see a movie with Bud 15 years ago in it. But what I love about the Bud character is she goes through essentially Vernita Green and Oren Ishii, who are still super in shape. They're obviously still very violent. Oren Ishii is this fucking incredible Yakuza boss and has this, gang of hundreds of people around her. She goes through them almost like a hot knife and butter. The fat dude fucks her life up really badly. Do either of you guys, Andrew, I'll start with you. I love that. I've always loved the fact that she sneaks up on his trailer. She, she's wearing the fucking the ninja mask essentially.
Oh, yeah.
She does all this stuff.
She's trying to get the drop on him.
And as soon as she kicks the door in, he blasts her in the tits, as he says, with a couple barrels of rock salt and buries her alive. Like, I don't know, Andrew, do you like that about that character?
It's almost cartoonish the way it's set up, and I think when I originally watched it, just to be fair to the scene, I think I liked it more then. And when I watched it now, because of what you just said, you can take this scene one of two ways. You can either be like, that it is kind of like Looney Tunes, where it's like super overly prepared and then go fuck yourself. You got shot in the chest. Or you could be like you said, she is a master. How does she mess that up so bad that she goes right in the front door? You're a goddamn ninja and an assassin. How do you mess that up so badly? To me, it's almost poor staging. It would be cooler if she dropped through the roof and he just met her and shot her point blank there or something. At least it makes it look like she had the attempt. Because you don't hide under the steps and make all this effort to then just walk in the front fucking door. It's a tiny trailer.
Right. Well, that's where I'll move the question over to Lloyd then. Do you think that this scene in this movie, do you think that it was written to kind of, I guess, focus on Beatrix's, what's the word? Give me a second to think of the word. Focus on her total underestimation of Bud. She's going to go through the front door because you know what? I just killed the Yakuza master. I just killed Vernita Green, right? This guy, he's a schlump. He's going to be drunk in there. I'll hide. He'll go inside. I'll sneak in the front door. I'll probably kill him while he's jerking off or sleeping.
You know, this scene does confuse me. You know, I'm kind of with Andrew. It's cartoonish, and why is she going through the front door? But I think, you know, she might have had I don't want to call it false sense of superiority because she did just go through the, you know, Yakuza, thank you very much, and Vernita Green. So, you know, maybe she's thinking, like you said, you know, I can take this guy, no problem. But it does confuse me because, you know, I don't feel like she would be that open with it. You know, I think she still would do it, you know, some other way, go through the back window or something like that. I don't know. So it's confusing. And again, like L Driver says later, you know, I just hate the fact that you're the one that took her out because you're such a schlump.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of my favorite dialogue, well, it's not dialogue between characters because she doesn't say anything, but is the whole bit where Madsen's character's talking to her, you know, just all the little things where he's, you know, he essentially tells her, you know what this is? The mace. I can give you this, the flashlight, or I can give you the mace. I like the whole idea that like you see this guy who like, you know, 20 minutes before was getting yelled at to mop up turds in a strip club's restroom. he kind of like, you see his chest puff up again when he takes her out, you know, because he knows that like, you know, like she got through everybody else. She's not going to get through me. Now, obviously that doesn't last, you know, super long. So we get into the next scene. Essentially,
before you go, I have one question for you guys.
Yeah.
In the scene earlier with Bud in the doorway and Bill standing outside, is it just the camera angle or what? But Bud looks like a little boy compared to Bill.
Well, they're supposed to kind of set that because they're brothers, right? So it's kind of this relationship, which, by the way, wild flex to have David Carradine, who's what, 25, 30 years older than Madsen, to be brothers.
That's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, that scene more bothers me now with the anti-Semitic slur that he drops for no reason, but because I like to say Tarantino's better than that, but he always has at least a few lines of dialogue in every movie that I go, come on. Yeah. This movie is perfection if you just don't do stuff like that. But yeah, anyway, I still like the guy quite a bit. But yeah, that scene, it's a very odd scene because they purposely shoot it downward like that. And he just doesn't care. He's just completely checked out. And Carradine's just on a whole different level. It's a very odd pairing. It's a very odd conversation. But what'd you think, John?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's obviously weird that the age range is so different, but you believe it. You know what I mean? They sell it. That these are two brothers that, like, you know, I like the little dialogue in it too. Like you said the stupid thing he says, you know, you're right. Like that's Tarantino with having to drop these, like, you know, we talked about it in the first episode. The Kill Bill movies have been a nice reprieve because the N-word isn't said once in either of them. But, you know, he still has to do something like that. But I do like the line where he says, you know, we haven't talked in a while, and the last time we talked wasn't so pleasant. I like stuff like that because it makes you think what happened between these guys. Why is Bill, like, obviously a multimillionaire, you know, and Bud lives in a fucking trailer? There's a whole story there that we don't know. Sure. You know, and obviously Bill cares for Bud because when we get to see Bud's Hatari Hanzo sword, which he did not pawn for $250 in El Paso, it says engraved in it, to Bud, the only man I've ever loved, you know? Yeah. So, you know, I like little bits like that. So yeah, they toss her in the grave. Now, Andrew, me and Lloyd were talking about this a little bit. Me and Lloyd were talking about this a little bit earlier. Did you recognize the name on the grave that Beatrix is buried in?
Oh, I did see that, but I didn't write it down. Which one was it?
It's Paula Schultz, and the death date is 1898. Now, what it is based on is there was a movie, I believe, called The Many Deaths of Paula Schultz.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
But another popular fan theory is that it is King Schultz's wife from Django Unchained, because she died, in the 1800s as well. Don't know if that's true. Throwing it out there for you. So once she gets buried alive, which, by the way, like, all time most feared thing in my life. I don't want to be buried for the fear of being buried alive. I want to be fucking, look, this is it. If people hear this out there now, if they go, if I were to die and people go, I don't know what his wishes were, listen to this podcast. Incinerate the fuck out of me. Don't put me underground, because I have lived in fear. Any movie that ever has anything to do with being buried alive, it makes me want to throw up. Right. There was that one with Ryan Reynolds a few years ago called Buried. That was fucking terrifying to me.
Vanishing. Didn't they bury him in that?
Yes. Serpent in the Rainbow. Terrifying. So when she goes in the ground and he's hammering that thing shut and the light is going out, him and his little weird short arm friend, I don't know what that guy was, but he looked like a little Tyrannosaurus Rex with drinking his beers. She goes in the ground and we know she's going to get out. But do you guys like the fact that this is a way, I'll ask Lloyd first, for us to go into the flashback to the Pai Mei stuff? Do you like the fact that they kind of utilize this whole scene as not only a flashback, but a way to kind of show you, because essentially the only reason it's there is to kind of show you how she gets out.
Yeah. To show you the 3-inch punch.
Right.
Yeah, I do like that. If you're going to bring in that character, that's a great way, in my opinion, bring that in. You show her trapped in there and then show her everything that, leads up to her having the skill to get out.
Andrew, are you a fan of the Pai Mei sequences?
I love Pai Mei. I love the beard. I love everything about this man. It's more on purpose of being cartoonish, and I love it how it knows what it's supposed to be, especially even fun stuff like standing on the sword in midair. Like they're throwing the sword into the rack midstream or whatever. Excellent stuff. Always fun. Talking to her like she's an animal, practically just insulting, just this. He's a character, a live character that we needed at this point in the movie, because this is much different pacing, as you said, John, where it does turn into a Western. It's incredibly slow for the Madsen parts, that whole intro part. So
I'll tell you, I did fall asleep in the first half hour of this movie. I had to wake up and rewind it.
If anybody knows anything about Lloyd, is that is not shocking whatsoever.
Not shocking, but true. I did fall asleep.
Yeah. That's big dad sleeping energy right there.
That's exactly right.
But no, I love him. I love those sequences. To me, it's love and hate, these scenes. I love that we get them because I love him so much. And I love the content of it. But in a way, as a person who idolizes this guy as a screenwriter, I wonder why we didn't get stuff like this early to set it up as like foreshadowing to get it later. Instead of just being like, how she's going to get out of this? Here's how. And like, it's this easy, just, throwaway thing. To me, it's one part lazy writing, one part amazing characterization. And it works, though. It works to get the movie through what it needs to at the time.
I got to say, one of my favorite bits of the Pai Mei stuff, and I mean, this is obviously going far ahead and spoiling what happens at the end of the movie, but if you're listening to this, you've seen it and we do spoilers. I really like the fact that he's obviously harsh to her. He obviously treats her like a dog, and if she doesn't eat with her chopsticks, even though her hands are mangled, she doesn't eat at all. But he teaches her the 5-point, exploding pot, whatever. Lloyd, again,
the 5-point palm exploding heart technique.
Thank you. I have a hard time with that.
And there's also a scene when she's doing the 3-inch punch. You see her from behind just practicing, and then you see a little scene of Pai Mei looking on at her with a respectful little, smile on his face. Right. And then he flips his beard.
Because the character of Bill, in the end, when you get through everything, he comes across by the way he talks as a very wise guy, right? And he's a wise man. He knows a lot about everything, and he knows a lot about Pai Mei, and he knows a lot about, well, Pai Mei never would teach me that. And the fact that we learned that Pai Mei teaches her that, for whatever reason, there's a respect there that Bill didn't earn that she earned. We also get to see another thing I like about that whole sequence we talked about in the last episode is the only time in Kill Bill Volume 1 that you get to see kind of a very whimsical and beautiful, flowery Uma Thurman is in the scene where she goes to Hatari Hanzo and she's pretending that she, is just there to get sushi or she's a tourist. And we talked about that in the show, how it was nice. You kind of see when she's with Bill on the beach and he's playing his flute, that's kind of her for real at one point in her life.
Yeah.
She hasn't been hardened yet into this. You almost wonder, like, why is a girl this fantastic, like, into this much bad shit and with this fucking scumbag of a guy? So I like the fact that this movie can make you start to think, both of these movies, back on like the whys. Why would they do this?
And that scene, by the way, is pure great Carradine. This is going to be a theme for me for this episode. I love David Carradine in this movie. And that scene, he holds that scene in the palm of his hand, telling this story about Pai Mei in almost a Peter and the Wolf type way with the flute and the way he's telling the story, this kind of folklore thing. By the way, shout out to Pai Mei for being 1,000 years old or whatever they say. That's right. It's like 103 or whatever he says. I'm like, how old's he now? So yeah, shout out to 1,000-year-old Asian men. They never age. It's great.
That's really his flutes, David Carradine, the flute. I mean, I guess he really plays those flutes.
I don't know. They cut away a lot. I didn't hear anything. So unless you know something I don't.
Yeah, I saw him talking, he briefly saying, yeah, those are flutes that I had from the Kung Fu show.
Oh.
So it seems like he's really into, maybe just meditating and playing these flutes.
It's a good life, man.
You seem pretty good at it.
All right. Well, I wanted to bring up, so we get the 3-inch punch. She gets out of the coffin. One of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, it's almost indiscernible to see, is that wide shot of like her rocketing up from the grave, which makes no sense. It's like,
yeah,
it's like, you think that the second part of this is going to be really hard, is that now the coffin's going to fill with dirt, but instead they do this shot where like almost like a superhero, she just like rises 6 feet from under, like she's like a cartoon moving her arms. I like that bit. And then I love the bit obviously too of where she's walking across the street
and she's walking in
at the diner and the guy's just watching her. I also like the effect that we get later on, because you kind of forget, even though the movie goes on, that it's like the next day, is that throughout the entirety of her fight with Elle in the trailer, which we're getting to, she's like Pigpen, like dirt just
oh yeah, off her. She's filthy.
She's filthy.
John, one of my favorite lines of dialogue in this movie is that diner scene where she sits down at the counter and just goes, "May I have a glass of water, please?"
Yeah.
It's like you've been just buried alive, escaping death, covered in dirt, and you're just like super nice manners, calm, chill. Love that line.
It is. This is like anybody else's fucking worst day ever. And she's just like, I got to get back on track. I got to figure this out. I wanted to bring something up, even though we're not there yet, because I thought it was just interesting that you guys said this. I found no point in the first like 20 minutes of this movie, the Madsen stuff. I was engrossed in that. I never felt like sleepy or tired or any of that stuff, which again, if you know the show, sometimes I do that too. I found from the second she gets to Bill's house at the end, me personally, I felt that could have been edited down a whole lot more. And again,
never ending.
The ending in this film is never ending. And as much as I do like Carradine and I like the Bill character, there's a point where I just feel like telling him to shut up. I got to be honest. There's two things that this movie does at the end that just like kind of kicks me out a little bit. And I know I'll get shit for one of them, but one of them
the ending got changed, John. We'll get there, but the ending got changed. So
we will.
It might have been different. Yeah.
It's just kind of the talkiness of the ending. It seems to take a long time. I don't need her to get there and kill him immediately. I want to see some of the drama of the baby is alive. The 4-year-old's alive. She's been living with the dad. I want to see some of that. I just don't know if I needed all of that. And then my other one that I'll probably get shit for is that I generally don't like little kid actors. And like, I know they're kids and I know that they're cute and I support all that. But like, fuck, they irritate me sometimes. And this kid really irritated me. I don't know what it was, like, I stomped the fish, daddy. There's something so fake about little kid actors, which I get, they're little kids. I've always been like that. My wife knows that. We watch movies. I'm like, oh, fuck this kid. I can't take this. But let's get back. I
didn't feel that way myself about that little kid actor.
Yeah, she was very cute.
She was okay. I wasn't totally annoyed by her.
She was very cute, and but it was just, there's something about it, like when Bill Cosby would have those shows on, and I hate to say Bill Cosby, but like kids say the darndest. Yeah, shouldn't say Bill Cosby. Kids say the darndest things. And then the kids will like make the little jokes and everything. I feel like when kids are on TV or in movies, I feel like they're like those Hollywood kids, and they're so fakely on that it bothers me. This is where a bunch of parents probably stop listening to the show, but
which, by the way, is why that Louis C.K. bit about the behind the scenes of Schindler's List is like the funniest joke to me ever. Do you know the bit?
No.
So apparently they talked about like the screen test for Schindler's List, and there's a kid in Schindler's List, if you ever seen it, where one of her big lines is she just screams, "Goodbye, Jews!" like at one point. And then so they go through like that there had to be like kids, just a line of kids auditioning for this, just a parade of kids just going in there with their interpretation of the line. And so it's like the cutesy kid where he's like, "Goodbye, Jews." And then like after all those little like shitty kid actors, these Hollywood kids come in, this kid just comes in, just nails it, going, "Goodbye, Jews." Just getting like super bad. It's one of my favorite bits. And Louis C.K., by the way, also hard to bring up. So.
Yeah,
right.
Everybody's canceled. Yay.
Let's get out of the segment of the show where we're talking about comedians who either jerk off on people or date rape people or drug rape people.
Yeah, let's get back to this Weinstein movie. What's going on, John?
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. This whole podcast has suddenly become problematic. So she gets out of the grave. She gets her glass of water. Elle Driver, who's played by Daryl Hannah, ends up talking to Bill and is under the impression talks to Bill and Bud under the impression that Bud has buried her alive, has gotten rid of the problem. She is going to go to buy the Hattori Hanzo sword from Bud for $1 million. Right. So she wants
$1 million.
She wants the bride's Hattori Hanzo sword, the one that was made in the last episode, which Bud kept after dispatching her. So that's the next segment we get into. She goes there, and Andrew, what ends up happening? Let's condense it a little bit, but what ends up happening in this scene?
Well, Bud makes a hell of a drink in a blender, buddy. I don't know. He makes an incredible drink. That's what everybody comes here for.
Well, not just that, but he gets like 80% of it in the glass and the rest of the counter.
That whole entire scene, man, that's so disgusting.
Yeah. It's a visceral nightmare.
Yes.
But to me, if the aim you're getting for is actually one of my favorite scenes where the Mamba in the case is an incredible scene to watch. It's actual great forethought. I think Daryl Hannah is amazing in this movie, by the way, and she's great in the first one, but it's more minimal. This one, she gets the full out scene, gets to show all her chops. I love her taking out the notebook and reading facts about black mambas to him, like like she's a preschool teacher teaching a lesson, and then being like, "Pay attention, this is where it's about you." Yeah. Those lines are great. And she sells them amazingly. And the fact that she does all these scenes, she's like 42 at the time. I'm 38 and I'm more on Lloyd's side of falling asleep during a movie. Like to fight like she did, and to have the retribution plus the poise that she has in the reading scenes, she kills this scene and the follow-up once we see the dirty feet to come that fly through the air.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah, Daryl Hannah plays a really good villain in this. She plays a character like Bud. I don't feel like you really dislike him when you meet him. You kind of feel bad for him. But the second you meet Elle, especially even after kind of knowing her from the first movie, I don't know about you, but me, I'm like, oh, fuck her. She's just slimy, and that there's no way that she's not going to try to kill this guy to get the sword. Lloyd, I think you mentioned to me earlier that you had the little bit of the pants chub for Daryl Hannah in this one.
Yeah, even both of them together. I mean, this was a great fighting scene. So she dispatches of Bud, with the Black Mamba and describes all the stuff that's going to happen to him, which is pretty cool. And then, she gets feet to the face, feet to the chest of Uma Thurman, Beatrix coming in, and they just have a fantastic fight. They're both looking hot. The best Daryl Hannah I've ever seen, bar none. One-eyed Daryl Hannah with hair in her face.
Well, while we're being three dudes just talking about hotness, Lloyd, did you notice the haircut differential from Uma from the first movie to the second?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I more dug the first one. I don't know if that also colors my opinion of Volume 1 versus Volume 2 with haircut changes, but definitely, it goes south for Beatrix and Bud in terms of hair as far as Volume 1 to Volume 2. That's for sure.
I do like her haircut when she goes to see Esteban. She seems to have a totally new haircut at that point.
Yeah, because that's more. I guess that would be flash forward at that point, right? So.
I think she's also trying to use her feminine wiles on him.
Yes, she is. Yeah.
And I like that bit too. We're jumping ahead just a little bit for a second, but I like that bit too, because, she knows that he's like a pimp, and she knows obviously he loves women, and she's very pretty, and she's kind of acting a certain way with him. But then like he makes the joke. He says the thing about like, Bill shot you in the head. And she's like, yes, he did. And he goes, I would have just cut you. And then like 2 minutes later, like his whore comes over with like the fucking
the worst
haircut you've ever seen.
Like he's obviously run a fucking blade across her mouth. And you see Beatrix look on her face like, oh fuck. Like this guy, is not kidding around.
Which, by the way, I hope that she's an actress, because I heard a lot of the women in that scene were actual. That's an actual brothel. Like those are actual prostitutes from the area. So I hope that is not her real makeup. Like
I read the same thing, and I wondered the same thing as you, Andrew.
Yeah, that's tough. By the way, again, not to jump too far ahead, but now that scene is infamous based on what happened to Uma Thurman.
Yes. Oh yeah. We talked about that in a little bit. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We talked about it a bit in the first one. Now, getting back to the fight.
Yeah, I want to say my favorite part of that fight was them constantly not having enough room to take the sword out of the scabbard.
Yeah.
And they must have made that, I don't know, three or four little bits on that, which is pretty hilarious.
You know that they changed that scene, right? That it was actually staged a little more like a professional like fight, a little more, using the sword or like really getting into it in the sense that they could, but they changed it after Tarantino watched Jackass 2. I wish that was a joke, but it's not a joke.
Funny though.
Well, you know what? Jackass 2 saved us, because the fight between Oranishi and Beatrix in the first film is a very eloquent sword battle, and the Vernita Green fight is like a knife fight with a lot of like kicking each other through shit. That was kind of like the next level down. This fight is like everything put together. This is literally.
This was perfect for in a trailer.
This is two fucking women beating the piss. I'm not saying this under my own taste, but I'm telling you right now, there's like a subset of guys out there that jerk off to the scene a lot. I know it. I absolutely know it. Lloyd, are you telling me you don't think there are? I'm telling you right now.
I did never thought of it.
Telling you right now, on a VHS copy of Kill Bill Volume 2, there's a ton of guys out there that have it like right at that scene. If you threw it in, you'd go, why is it always on this scene? Because they're snapping one off to it right there.
All right. I believe you.
Did you also know that Daryl Hannah improv that whole post eye pole thing?
Yes.
And she did it just for Tarantino to laugh, which makes me laugh now, because it's a hilarious scene.
It's great.
Like just this blind woman just trying to still go for vengeance. There's this stubborn woman, and I love it.
There's two things about it that are great. And Tarantino kept it because she did it as a joke to get him to laugh. But seriously, your second eye's just ripped out.
Yeah. And you would be panicking.
You'd be panicking. And she fucking hates Beatrix more than anything.
Yes.
So she's like having this extreme rage. And then the third part, which might have been incidental, is it's a callback to her death in Blade Runner. When she gets shot in Blade Runner, her character does about the same fucking thing. Lays on the ground and starts to freak out and make noises and stuff. So
it's true.
It's very cool. One of my favorite bits of this whole, it's simultaneously one of my favorite bits and one of my least favorite bits of this whole fight. But I love the grossness of it is when she throws the coffee can of spit in her face.
That was disgusting.
And here's the reason why I love it. Like I grew up with the good friend of mine. He passed many years ago who dipped. And there was always bottles of that shit around.
The nastiest habit.
I lived with him for years. I've kicked those bottles over. I've seen a friend one time accidentally drink from one. And I'm not kidding, turn green. Right.
Yeah.
So this is something I've seen. So I know how gross that is. I don't have to know how gross that is for you to know as well. But like when you have a connection to it, it's even worse. But what I love about that scene too is that she flips it in her eyes. And just for a second, Daryl Hannah becomes like a real person and goes, gross. Like
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
like these two at this point have kicked each other in the vaginas. They have like beaten the shit out of each other. They've thrown each other through windows and mirrors. And she takes a second to just like go on about how gross that was.
Yeah. Over the line.
Yeah. Yeah. Really like no spit. All right. That's the line. No spit.
Which, by the way, you know that the spit, I think it's the Madsen one on Beatrix at the graveyard.
Oh,
that's actually Tarantino spitting on her face.
That's not a surprise.
Because they couldn't get it right when they tried to do it with effects or with another person. So he literally stepped in and spit in her face. Yeah, good times, right?
Yeah. Well, that probably goes. I mean, I'm sure she willingly did that, but it probably didn't help the many year rift that they had. That was because of what did you mention earlier, Andrew, and what happened?
So you talk about the accident?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they use this old, almost museum car for that scene where they're going up to, sorry, what's the character's name again?
Esteban's.
How can I forget? Esteban. Yeah. They go to the brothel with Esteban. Like on that dirt road, he thought he had, more length. They changed the route. And she was like, I'm not comfortable in this car. I don't know how to drive it. It's old. I don't know all the mechanisms. This is not going to go well. She fought against it. He insisted. She ends up, they change the route. She takes a wrong turn. She veers off the road, headfirst into a tree. She's concussed. She even said later, like that she thought that, she might not even walk again because she lost feeling in certain places.
I think both her knees got messed up.
Yeah, because it's head on collision to a tree.
Did you see the video for this? I actually saw it.
I didn't want to watch it, so I didn't. But yeah, the descriptions I've heard are not pleasant. And then even Ethan Hawke, stepped in and was yelling at Tarantino about that. Like, there's so many. It's all bad. It's all bad. Weinstein wouldn't turn over the video for years out of fear of litigation issues and things like that. And it's gross. It's all bad. And only just in the last 3 or 4 years did Tarantino say, he feels bad about it. The tape's now in her possession. Hence how she was able to put it out in the press back then. But yikes.
Created a huge rift between him and her. She was his muse for a while. She was kind of the muse behind Pulp Fiction, and during their time on Pulp Fiction I should say that again. She, while on Pulp Fiction, along with him, created this whole, bride character that ended up being, essentially his next couple of movies after Jackie Brown. So obviously they were very close, and yeah, I didn't know anything about this until about last year.
And you can argue this tanked her career a little bit. Like, she wasn't getting the same roles after this because, a lot of the films that made her were not only just Quentin's one, but like that kind of indie Miramax, that 90s and early 2000s type of films. And Weinstein was such a huge figure. I wouldn't doubt if he squashed a lot of things for her and threw his weight around and kind of put a poison pill out there. Because if you see her career post Kill Bill, it's not pretty.
Yeah. Well, and you got to wonder how much of it too is not just maybe being blacklisted, but like she was fucking physically hurt too.
Yes, true.
Not being able to work is a whole, and that's one of the things she said was that they caused her an inability to work. And I think I read somewhere that that whole incident caused a huge rift between Lawrence Bender and Tarantino. So this is kind of very defining.
It was nuts.
Yep.
Very defining for his career and her career. And, it's too bad too, because she really, at this point, she was on the top of the world. These movies did really well. And just very interesting and kind of shitty. And not to mention, not to get too far again into all this stuff, but she was also fucking, assaulted by Harvey Weinstein at least one point. So, yeah, Uma Thurman, we love you. Hopefully, hopefully all is well.
If you want to hear
suck, that's all there is to it.
Yes, absolutely. If you want to hear one fun story about that scene, though, just to counterbalance all that, the story that he tells about Bill. Do you know this story?
What, the thumb sucking? Yeah, that's Kurt Russell, right?
Yeah, it's funny, right? Like he tells this story to Quentin Tarantino about when he was a kid, that anytime he saw Marilyn Monroe on the big screen, that he'd started sucking his thumb, and then it ends up in a movie, a few years later. It's wild.
Kurt Russell, his childhood is fascinating because he was obviously a Disney actor as a kid. And I've seen stories where he talks about playing ping pong. He was like ping pong friends with Walt Disney as a child. He'd play ping pong with him. And, he grew up on a lot of sets of, even if he wasn't in the movie, he was like on the set because of it. And the craziest thing, and I'll leave it at this because we could do a whole podcast about it, but Walt Disney's last words were Kurt Russell. Look it up. It's absolutely
really
true. Nobody knows why.
That's crazy.
But
Rosebud.
Walt Disney's, I think he didn't say them. He wrote them down. Look it up. His last words were Kurt Russell. And Kurt Russell's been asked about this, and he's like, I don't know. He's like, I believe it. I don't know. Maybe he was an old man in the grips of going through something. Maybe he had an idea. Maybe Kurt Russell killed him. I'm not putting that out there. Walt Disney's last words were Kurt Russell. Okay. So isn't that fucking, I learned that like 2 years ago, and I kind of wondered if it was bullshit. And then I read an interview with Kurt Russell where he acknowledged that he knows it's a thing. So that's fucking crazy.
Two more things about that fight scene in the trailer before we go.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm not very easily disgusted by things in movies, but when she ripped her eyeball out and then threw it on the floor and stepped on it and squished it between her two toes. I think that's probably the grossest thing I've ever seen in a movie. And then the second thing I want to say was I thought it was really cool as she was leaving, the Black Mamba snake went back. The Black Mamba codename, Black Mamba walked by, like that snake would not even strike her. That's how deadly she is.
It's one of the crazy stats of this movie is that in the first movie alone, when she fights the crazy 88, you figure she kills. I mean, again, there wasn't 88 of them. She kills many, 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 many people in that movie. Mm-hmm. She kills one person in this whole movie. She kills Bill. Bill's the only person she kills. She doesn't kill Bud, and she leaves L Driver. You're to assume that L Driver is going to die from her wounds, or the snake's going to get it.
The snake, yeah.
Right? But she doesn't kill anybody but Bill in this movie.
My favorite thing, too, is that L Driver is the California mountain snake, which is famously known for its ability to eat other snakes, particularly the type of rattlesnakes the Sidewinder is, which is Madsen's character's nickname. So it's kind of this cool, these are the Tarantino isms that I like, where it's this deep dive, like, I should have seen it coming if I was a scholar, but I'm not.
Yeah, right.
There you are.
If I only knew more about the California mountain snake, I would have seen this whole Sidewinder thing coming.
I know. My kids watch so many nature shows. How have I not done that already?
So we get to the end. She meets Esteban. Esteban points her in the right direction. We get a little flashback to when she found out she was pregnant. This is, if we're going to be men here for a minute, this is prime Uma Thurman when she's looking at herself in the mirror, and you just see how goddamn hard her body is in that scene.
Oh, yeah.
In those black panties and that little black like half shirt. She's doing that thing where she's like trying to look at herself like as if she was pregnant, but you
looking at her baby bump.
Yeah, looking at her baby bump, but you just see like those goddamn superhero lines on her. Like, all right. Looking good. I like that whole scene. I do like that whole bit between her and the assassin, where it ends up being two women having
woman to woman
moment, where it's like, I'm pregnant. Okay, read that. The whole bit. It's a little goofy, but I like the fact that this assassin is willing to just go because, she might be a killer. but now she has this whole thing where I'm not going to kill a pregnant woman.
That scene to me illustrated how great the cinematography is. Nobody talks about that in Tarantino movies. It's always about his dialogue or about the violence. His movies are shot incredibly well. And that scene in particular, where she backs out of the room and stages it perfectly to like still have the conversation through the bullet, like the gun blast in the window and those perfect lines. Everything lines up so perfect. And this movie is shot by Robert Richardson, who is a 3-time Oscar winner, one of the best, living cinematographers. He won for JFK, The Aviator, Hugo. He did Platoon, Few Good Men. The guy is amazing. He shot every one of Quentin's movies post Kill Bill Volume 1. So awesome stuff. And that scene just reminds me how awesome he is.
Yeah. So we get to the end now, and it's this whole family coming together scene. As I mentioned, I find this a little bit long in the tooth. Bill, reintroduces her to the daughter, who at this point she didn't know was still alive. That's all very dramatic, and it's good. But then we start getting into them talking back and forth. The Superman talk and the truth serum. And I find this all goes on a little bit long for my taste. Again, I'm not just looking for action or for her to kill Bill, but that no matter what is said, she's going to kill Bill. So I think a little bit of it just goes, there's the whole bit where he's talking about the difference between life and death and the fact that the little girl learned this, and he's making the sandwiches. He's putting the condiments on with a butcher knife, which is fucking insane. Use a butter knife. You're going to fucking cut yourself, Bill. We talked about this a little bit beforehand. One of the rare occasions, we talked about this before we got on, one of the rare occasions where Tarantino uses a real brand. Bimbo bread is it's one of the largest bread makers. It's a Mexican brand. And a few years ago when Hostess went out of business and there were no Twinkies, people were freaking out. Bimbo runs Hostess now. So when you see that Bimbo white bread, it says Bimbo Blanco. That is actually a real brand as opposed to 90% of the shit that's in his movies.
Yeah, from what I understand about this movie is that it has the most product placement of any movie he's ever done. Like even the cigarettes, he has his own red apple that he uses throughout a lot of his films. In this one, half the time or 3/4 of the time, they're smoking American spirits.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's the other one.
I was trying to.
But there is red apple in this one, but only.
Yes, there is. Like on a table somewhere, not actively. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Interesting. All right.
I also feel in this scene with the long talk, I don't know if Tarantino is trying to make us more sympathetic towards Bill. I mean,
absolutely.
We're supposed to be rooting for him now.
No, he's trying to make you see Bill's point of view. Bill's point of view is with that whole Superman / Clark thing is that she's fucking Superman.
Right.
So if she were to go off and get married to Tommy and work at the record store, that's all bullshit. And you're a killer and you're supposed to be a killer and you're not like everybody else around here. And, and I do like the fact that it's punctuated by that scene with the truth serum where he says to her, would you think your life would have worked out? And it doesn't take any time for her to say no. She knows that the Tommy marriage was not going to work. She just knew that she'd have the baby and that would be like this, that would be it.
John, I teased it before where I was saying, like, I think Carradine's amazing in this movie. That Superman monologue is one of my favorite pieces of dialogue in this whole movie. I agree with you that whole scene as a collective is way too long because it loses all momentum from where she's coming in and what ends up happening. It really is a brake slammer to just go in with that, seeing the child and doing the bang bang thing and faking a death and playing along, even though she should be like she's seeing a ghost.
She's screaming on the inside.
Yeah, so it's an interesting scene to unpack because of all the things that Uma Thurman has to do, but also understanding what it does to the movie. It's kind of how I felt about being a person who saw Kill Bill Volume 1 in the theaters, and then 6 months later, you come in and the first 20 minutes are like this slow Western pace versus you came out of a screaming knife fight for most of a movie just 6 months ago. And without us knowing that this was going to be the turn, I feel like the ending feels a lot how I felt about the movie as a whole. But you're right. I don't need to hear about her, the kid's stupid goldfish. That whole scene. Besides, actually, I appreciate, John, that he's cutting up that sandwich and doing the condiments all with a butcher knife, because that's just he's a killer. Who cares?
Andrew.
It's exactly what I would want if I had some kind of, overlord making a sandwich for me.
Cutting off the crust. Very good sandwich.
Listen, Andrew, it's fucking careless. All right.
It shows his whole character, though. You don't shoot a woman in the head and then not kill her. It's careless. You got to shoot all over. Take the whole thing. Shoot the heart, shoot the head, cut off the head. Shit, burn her, whatever you got to do. Make sure she's dead. Careless altogether.
I do have to say, I love the fact that he does just straight up tell the daughter that he shot mommy and tried to kill her. I do like the fact, and I also agree with you. I think Carradine's great in this. The end really slows to a glacial pace, but I like the Superman dialogue. And I do love the fact that he's just like, I tried to kill mommy. And you know what? I was a bad daddy. What?
Well, how about this, John, where you go 2 films, 4 hours of a movie called Kill Bill, and the fight scene for everybody else is several minutes, and the fight scene between these two big things, 35 seconds.
Yeah. I was actually fine with that. Lloyd, what did you think of the final? Let's mention this, by the way. Not only the final 35-second fight, the 35-second seated fight.
Yes. Yeah, seated fight.
At a table.
Yeah, no, I was not really impressed with that. Even the fight with Oren Ishii, which was kind of maybe a little bit of a letdown, was way better than this. But I do appreciate the fact that she did perform the 5-point palm exploding heart technique, which was, is this when he learns that, she taught you that?
Yeah. Well, I think he's slowly learning that people just really, I don't think Pai Mei taught her that because he doesn't like Bill, but Hatari Hanzo made the sword simply to kill Bill.
Right.
And then so he knows that. He's like, he makes a comment about that earlier to Bud. I thought he stopped making swords, and he's like, he must really, have an issue. And then in this, he taught you that, he wouldn't teach me that, but he taught you that. And that's my ultimate fucking failure, is that I couldn't get close enough to learn something like that. What makes you better than me? I love that scene. I love the little choreography of her balancing herself with the scabbard, and their little bit of sword fight, whatever it is. And then just the look of the punch. I'm not going to fucking say it again. When she just,
so hard to say.
It's all these light taps, on these pressure points. And then he knows what happened, and he immediately has blood coming down his mouth. And then they have that whole kind of dialogue where she's teary eyed because she's finally done. She's done what she knew she had to do. It does slow to a crawl. It slows to a crawl, but it's a satisfying ending. Look, if it ended any other way than her killing Bill, I would have been really pissed off.
No,
you know what I mean?
That wouldn't have worked.
But John, do you think, especially for how long that scene does go on, as you noted, from showing up and seeing the kid, watching a movie with her, kind of getting domestic in this whole thing, multiple monologues, going through the whole motion. I wish there was at least maybe a hint of, are we just wasting time? Or is she actually considering I didn't know this was an option to not kill Bill and to kind of move on with my life, or to have a sense of this kid is being held by the worst person that she could possibly imagine. How is there not some version of a reaction that she has, some kind of emotion here, some kind of line of dialogue, to where you get a sense of that from an audience perspective, that either there is a confliction or there is no confliction, and you're just wasting my goddamn time. The other fun part for me is this could have gone very different. Originally in the script, it was supposed to be, and they throw it in as a line, which I actually found kind of fun, where he's like, yeah, we can wait till dawn and fight on this beach that's close by. That was originally how it was supposed to end. But then Weinstein stepped in and said, we don't have enough time and resources, I think, to do that. So they changed the scene up a little bit. This is what we ended up with. But do you have any thoughts on that?
Me, I feel like she was going to kill him no matter what. I feel like you could tell that she was going to kill him no matter what. And I'm also fine with the fact that we didn't get like a big fight between the two of them at the end. In all honesty, because I think part of what makes Bill like kind of this like mythical character is that you almost don't ever see anything he does. You don't see him even shoot her. You know, it's all conjecture or told in a certain way. We never see him being a really bad dude. We just know he is, right?
Also, shout out to that kid, or that room is probably the most soundproof room in the history of mankind. As a person who just tried to build an audio studio, apparently I need to talk to whoever his decorator was, or carpenter or something, because that kid didn't wake up through a gunshot, trank shot, a full-on fight. The kid's a sound sleeper. You got to appreciate that from a parent's side, don't you?
Gotta love that in a kid.
I do kind of wish that there was a silencer on the gun when he shoots. That would have made me happier with that bit, because that's the first thing. I hadn't seen this in a while, and I thought, is the kid gonna come downstairs? I don't remember this.
Right?
Now, she's got sleep apnea or something. She's snoring so loud. That kid. Oh man.
Yeah.
Right.
No, my biggest thing in the end, I really just wanted this movie to be over. That's how I felt in the end.
Yeah, but is that just normal Lloyd?
Just wanted it to be over. Yeah, maybe. But I was just saying, you know.
All right. I'm interested in hearing your score. We'll get that in a few minutes. Lloyd, any Tarantino isms that we should go over?
So we've got another trunk scene with Buddy, you know, looking at Beatrix in the trunk. You've got more bare feet. The worst, the most notable one, the squishing the eyeball. The corpse POV scene. So Buddy looking at the bride in the coffin and Elle looking at Buddy. You've got the God's eye POV looking straight down, Buddy in the money and Beatrix in the bathroom. Mirror scenes, like you said, looking at her tummy in the mirror. The black and white suit. Elle Driver's wearing a black and white suit. Bathroom scenes. Oh, by the way, smartest move ever. If someone's trying to drown you in a toilet, just flush it. Just flush it.
Yeah.
The car scene, not even talking about the famous car scene, but the opening shot of her driving in a car talking to the camera. Comic book scene, lots of Superman talk, more samurai swords. So the white Civic from Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown is in the parking lot of Buddy's strip club.
Mm-hmm.
Same car. The Red Apple cigarettes we talked about. So then you've got Mr. Blonde's from Reservoir Dogs, Michael Madsen. His gas can was in the truck. And then the straight razor that he used to cut the ear off of Marvin Nash. Same straight razor that Beatrix had in the coffin, stuck in the boots, which were also the same boots from Mr. Blonde.
Yeah, Mr. Blonde's boots and straight razor were on her feet, and luckily enough, because the razor got her out of her what is that called? Ligatures, right? Ligatures,
sure.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's some interesting stuff. Another one we didn't throw in with the cast because it's really minor is Sid Haig shows up again from.
Right, I forgot.
He does. Yeah,
he was the judge in Jackie Brown, and he's like the bartender in the strip club. And he just has like one scene, but it's good to see Sid Haig.
I don't know if he did it to this point in his career, but he uses, for anyone who doesn't know, director Robert Rodriguez did the music for this film. He didn't compose anything, sort of. His band is actually the last shot, like after she kills Bill and goes. That whole song that they play is his band. Mm-hmm. So there is that. But what I was going to say is that he uses, because Tarantino thought of this movie as like his version of the Dollars trilogy. Fistful of Dollars, A Few Dollars More, the Sergio Leone movies. And a lot of what they use for music here is Ennio Morricone's score from those old spaghetti westerns, and he does that later. Like he'll put it in Django. I think he puts it in Hateful Eight too. So it's something that becomes a Tarantinoism, but isn't at this stage, I believe.
Right. Hateful Eight, if I'm correct, right? Morricone actually scored that movie.
Yes, correct. Yeah, totally.
Right before he died. Yeah. And what was it? Robert Rodriguez was paid how much, Lloyd, for this?
$1.
$1. And in return, Quentin Tarantino accepted $1 to film the one scene in Sin City that he directed, which I had not seen that in a long time, but I believe it's the scene where he's talking to the head, right, in the car. I think that's the Tarantino scene. It's been a long time since I've seen that, but yeah, so they traded off for $1. Because the last movie was composed by RZA from Wu-Tang Clan.
Correct. Yeah. But there's way more better needle drops and everything in volume 1 versus this one. There's a couple of ones where they try to use certain songs that are more known or certain things that are more, you would hope they would have been better Tarantino-isms, with the soundtracks that he's had in the past. To me, they don't work as well.
The music is much better in part 1. I'll just put it that question.
Yeah,
I'll put it that way. Even if you don't like this movie as much as part 1, or consider it a weak or half of one movie, whatever it is, the music is much better in part 1 for sure. Master, let's get some box office and then let's rate this thing.
All right. Well, we got the opening weekend, which was April 16th, 2004, made $25.6 million, came in number 1. As comparison, volume 1 made $22.2 million. So obviously people wanted to see what part 2 was all about. But the total domestic was $66.2 million as opposed to $70 million for volume 1, and $154 worldwide as opposed to $180 for volume 1. I'll give you that weekend. Number 5 that weekend was Home on the Range. Number 4 was Hellboy. Number 3 was Johnson Family Vacation. I don't even know what that is.
Cedric the Entertainer, I think. I
think so too. That's the first thing that came to my mind. Yeah.
Number 2, The Punisher. And number 1, Kill Bill Volume 2. And then for the year, that movie came in 44, whereas Volume 1 came in number 40, so very close. Number 10, Polar Express. 9, National Treasure. 8, The Bourne Supremacy. 7, The Day After Tomorrow. 6, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Number 5, The Incredibles. Number 4, Meet the Fockers. 3, Passion of the Christ. 2, Spider-Man 2. And number 1, Shrek 2.
Wow.
Yeah. It did beat Dawn of the Dead and Saw that year.
But it's so impressive because both movies combined cost $60 million. So the fact that one movie can make your money back and then some and to do it twice is great.
Oh, yeah. And not to mention something else they did that was smart was that the week part 2 came out in the theaters, part 1 came out on DVD and video.
Right. They actually delayed it just for that.
Yeah. They dropped them both. So I guess if you picked up if you went to your local Blockbuster or whatever other rental facility you had and rented Kill Bill on the Tuesday, you could go Friday. You know what I mean? That was pretty smart. I'm sure that got them some extra business from people that didn't see it in the theaters.
Yeah.
I wonder if there was precedent with that with Matrix 2 and 3. I think they did the same thing.
Yeah, probably. It would be very smart if they did, Hey, you didn't check this out in the theaters. We're going to drop it the same week, a couple days before. And if you love it, get out there now. All right, let's start rating this thing. Manster, we'll start with you. Now, as a reminder to the audience, we did Kill Bill Volume 1 on the last episode. Manster gave it a 4.25.
4.25, I gave Volume 1, huh?
4.25.
Well, this one, adds extra plot and dialogue to the action heavy, first half of the film. It still delivers pretty good, hard hitting film. But for me, it fell short of the mark. I'm going to give this one a 3.5. 3.5,
3.5. This is a movie a minute ago. He said he couldn't wait for it to end. And he gives it a 3.5. Hey, that's
what is it? 2 hour, 2 and 15 minutes.
It's
that's a long time for me.
Oh, I agree. It's definitely the longer of the two movies. I don't think the Madsen stuff drags like you guys do, but the end, it's like, holy shit, how long are we gonna be in this house for? This is taking forever. Can you just fucking kill him? All right. So I gave Kill Bill Volume 1 a 4.5, 4.5. I absolutely love that movie. This one, not so much, as we mentioned very early on. There are things I like about it. I love the interaction with Bud. I think the fight between her and Daryl Hannah might be the best fight in any of these movies. It's definitely the most brutal. And I do like the fact that we get, like, the dialogue is great. It's Tarantino dialogue, and getting to kind of meet Bill as a character more. What do we see him? Did we even see him in the first movie? I can't remember. Is he shown, or is it just his voice? I think it's just his voice in the first movie. So we kind of get to see him, All that said, I'm going to go a full point drop. I'm right with Lloyd. I'm going to a 3.5. I still really enjoy this movie. I think it's really well made, but it just, man, again, if it was one movie, the first half is just better than the second half. It's the Full Metal Jacket effect, right? Full Metal Jacket is great through boot camp. And then they go to Vietnam, and I don't remember anything about it because I shut it off every fucking time.
What's your major malfunction?
Yeah, it's just not that good. The second Arlie Ermy dies and D'Onofrio kills himself, and they move on from that. It's just like, this movie doesn't fucking work for me anymore.
You're getting me depressed.
Andrew, host of the Nomcast here on Forgotten Entertainment. You can check him out weekly and all of his great guests. If you're into the Netflix original movies, you want to definitely check out what he's talking about. What do you give Kill Bill V2?
Well, I definitely echo your sentiment. I thought the Full Metal Jacket comparison is very good, because I think when I wrote down on my notes, I said it's much like most music double albums I've ever owned, where like there's usually one side that's way better than the other. There's usually some bloat to where you make it wonder, like, why is this 2 albums in the first place? But ultimately, you have to sit back and bow to the fact that it's an epic achievement that they had this kind of output, and the goods, that you create, there's goods on both sides. So you can't dismiss them out of hand, and you got to learn how to appreciate it. I think when I first watched this film in the theaters, I didn't appreciate it, because 6 months later, like I said, it's a hard turn to go from this insane martial arts revenge movie to what this was. A lot of the things that I liked on the first initial watch held up, but I think more things for me this time that didn't feel right the first time actually improved, because I was able to isolate the watch. You know what I mean? I didn't go back and watch Kill Bill 1 first because I knew it would color what I thought about part 2. So watching it independently, I think it works better than I remember it working as. But it does have a lot of issues. We brought them all up throughout this entire episode. I still wonder what a 3-hour cut of this movie looks like. But I would say 3.75. I'm basically doing the $1 more thing, Price is Right thing to you guys. I'm going, yeah, I see what you're saying, but I liked it just maybe a tad more than you guys did. Because Carradine is awesome. Hannah's awesome. Some of those scenes just stick with you. But I will say, as a totality, when I think of Kill Bill, all the first 10 images that run through my brain are all part 1.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Fair. I think that our opinions on this are going to be most people's opinions. But if you feel differently, go to forgottenentertainment.com and maybe, comment or, send an email.
Is there a way to comment?
I don't know, but go to that website anyway. See, I'm tricking them to go there. You can check out the Nomcast. You can check out, Forgotten Cinema, yet another Star Wars podcast.
Peanut butter sandwich.
Yet another peanut butter sandwich podcast. You can do all of that. Until next week, when we come back with our friend Scary Larry Dwyer and talk about Death Proof, which I'm super not looking forward to rewatching that one. But you know what? We're here for you.
I'm looking at that with an open mind.
Yeah, I guess I have to try too. I'm John.
I'm Lloyd.
And this has been On the QT. Andrew, thanks again for coming on.
Loved it. Had a great time, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Talk to you next week.
See ya.